You can mint on the Ethereum blockchain or any blockchain that you determine, and you put in a corporate resolution that this corporation is owned by these tokens. And the tokens turn out to become shares. So then you can buy the property with the Wyoming corporation. So you don't need anyone to like charge you $100,000 to do it. Go do it yourself for $6, $100, whatever. Did I kill someone's business model here who sponsored the thing? Sorry. So you buy it with a Wyoming corporation, and then you got these shares. So now you have security laws that say, oh, you're selling security because you're telling people that they'll make money if they buy one of these shares. So that's the issue with that, right? You have to get around that somehow. But you can buy anything. You can buy a boat with the shares. The problem with blockchain and a physical asset is who has custody. Oh, I'm going to buy a Lamborghini or something that doesn't have a title document. Like I'm going to buy a diamond and I'm going to have it on an NFT. Well, someone can steal the diamond, right? Because it's in a three-dimensional space. The only place we can, on the blockchain, we enforce three-dimensional rules and create a digital scarcity. So early on in my career, in the early 90s, I registered 12,000 domain names because that was the first form of digital scarcity. The domain name, to a certain effect, it was and is digital scarcity. I know that it's not a decentralized digital scarcity, right? It's a distributed digital scarcity. So in the physical world, it's much difficult. That's what this Doge is more difficult to say, oh, I'm gonna tokenize this table. It's an antique table, it's worth $10 million. But who's gonna have custody of it, right? It's in the three-dimensional world. So people are saying, oh, I tried to do I'm still working on it, a gold-backed token in the UAE. The gold's jammed up in Switzerland because Switzerland, if you put your gold in the vault over there, they're not gonna give it back to you, they give you a receipt. You're trying to get it out, you're trying to sue them to get your own gold back out. They don't like giving the gold back. So that's the problem with the physical world. Our world is much better because it's math. You can't fuck with the math because it's the rules of the universe. And the physical world is the rules of criminals and lawyers. And they have all this nice found ways of explaining how, they own it and that you owe them a bunch of money. Especially when you're teaching them about blockchain, they charge you $1,000 an hour to teach them. And then they bring 4 other guys and now it's $4,000 an hour and you're teaching them what Bitcoin and blockchain is. And then they will send you another bill. But real estate you can do right away. You gotta keep your eye on the Howey test and say, hey, there's a security. In New York, you can't do it because they have real estate investment trust laws that so many people buy into real estate. You gotta do all this shit. So it's hard to do in New York. You can do it. You get a Wyoming Corp and buy the thing in the Wyoming Corp. It's $100. And then you mint, and that's it. And you put the contract address right in the corporate resolution. And then you bought a physical thing that's tokenized. Now, how can you sell without getting arrested is something else. But you know what? Now that we got Trump,
yeah,
I don't know, just do anything. The motherfucker got two meme coins, meme coin launch. He turned the. No, I've been to I don't know 10 of them. No, not 10 inaugural balls. I've been to I don't know like 6 or 7 inaugural balls, and this is the only inaugural ball that turned into a token launch. It was pretty ridiculous. For me, it was ridiculous. I was like, what the fuck? I go to sleep and I thought something happened. I died and went to heaven, or I got a heart attack in my sleep. And like, it's so surreal to me. I mean, the cops, the FBI, the IRS, everyone you could think of has been trying to arrest me. When I opened the Bitcoin I didn't even charge anybody. They were trading millions of dollars. I didn't even charge $1. I even paid for the booze and the food and the rents and the promoters and the communication officers, and I paid it was like $120,000, $30,000 a month I paid. And they're like, well, you're facilitating an exchange. Where's your exchange license? I said, no, I'm not. They're trading with each other. It's got nothing to do with me. He goes, well, the trades are clearing somewhere. Where are the computers? Where are your computers? I go, I don't have any Bitcoin nodes here in my machine, except for the one that's heating the place. Like, well, I go, it's on the blockchain. You know, there's guys that might be being done under some kid's bed in Venezuela. What the fuck you want from me? I go, listen, why don't you go find out what the hell you're talking? You don't even know what you're talking about. These are people trading with each other. It's a peer-to-peer situation. Go try to figure out how you can arrest each one for what they did specifically at that moment. People just meeting up here, drinking, having fun, and doing what we were born to do, commerce. You know, the government can't be in control of the money because look what they did. They got endless wars since 1913. There's endless wars because there's endless money for these pricks. Before 1913, they had to float war bonds to fund the war. So if the people didn't like the war, they wouldn't have any money and they couldn't do the war. But over here, they'll just print up the money, surveil your life, fuck you up, throw you in jail, use all that money to buy more people to watch you. They're printing up this fucking voodoo, I call it voodoo money, voodoo paper, because it has nothing to back it. It has dead people on there, and they convince you that it's worth something. And for you to store your life's labor in this fucking piece of voodoo paper. When I found out about it, I freaked out. You have no idea. I didn't know what the hell it was. I didn't know what happened. I realized in 1991 that my whole life was a fucking lie, and that I was a slave. And I lived my life as a slave, and my parents lived their lives as slaves. And everyone around me are slaves, and they just are not identifying as slaves. Because we couldn't identify as whatever we wanted back then. I'm like, what the fuck? I go, you kidding me? I go, yo, this is a scam. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was a commercial fisherman at the time because they ruined my life. I mean, the stock market crashed. I lost $2.5 million in 1987. I turned into a commercial fisherman. I was like, I saw Greenspan. I go, that motherfucker's my owner. That guy owns me. He sets the price of what the fuck. I saved my life. My grandmother gave me a $100 bill that she made when she was a seamstress. It took her probably a month to make. And she gave it to me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I could probably buy a hat on the first round at the bar tonight with that. But I let her believe that it was worth a lot. It wasn't worth shit. So that motherfucker and all those assets, they're robbing old crippled women. They're robbing everybody. Old people who saved their work in this fucking voodoo shit. They're robbing them and trying to say that I'm a fucking criminal. You fucking kidding me? They died their whole life. They busted their ass into the ground, worked themselves into the ground for voodoo shit. You listening? Amen. What happened to us? Trying to make me a fucking criminal? Kidding me?
I feel like the people in the room might know it, but everyone out there, they're still starting to wake up, but you still gotta bring them in, bring them down the whole thing.
Yeah, so I don't know, did Nick, did you talk about your some of the ways you got into crypto and Bitcoin? I know you mentioned the liberty. Sure. We got a lot of passion here, so we love it.
I'm just pissed. They're killing the old people. You understand me? They came to buy fucking medicine, and they're trying to say that it's capitalism. Get the fuck out of here. here, dude. They're killing the old people. They can't eat. Do you understand that? That's what's going on here. And these pricks are trying to say I'm a criminal? Are you kidding me?
Fuck that!
How brainwashed is this planet? I mean, everyone on the whole planet is trading voodoo paper. We got the big voodoo doctor, big ceremony that she signs. That bitch from fucking the EU signed this fucking thing. What is that? That's some voodoo shit, no? She's just not dressed up like a voodoo doctor. Isn't that voodoo?
Yeah.
I've been in Africa. I'm all over Africa. I stopped the IMF bill from passing in Kenya 6 months ago, 5 months ago. 22 people died. I don't take whatever. There's 2 million people who protested. I explained what was happening to them because they wanted to turn every deed that was farmland into a lease. So Rudo could get fucking bribed. Don't put it on the internet. I'm gonna die, but they're gonna kill me by tomorrow at least. But at least we'll have a good night tonight. I don't give a fuck. Come get me. I've been telling you to come get me for so long, you pussy motherfuckers. Come get me.
Nick, run for office.
No, we love it. We love
Nick
it.
Spanos.
So I wanted to open up a little bit. So I know Michael feels pretty strongly about fiat and stable, the future of currency, and would love to hear his thoughts on voodoo and state currency. Yeah.
Again, last time I said I don't know how to follow up, and now I really have no idea. But I will add an anecdote though, and say that at the university, most of the students, or at least, most of the students, including students in the School of Finance, don't realize that fiat is not backed by gold. Not only that, but faculty in finance, I spoke to last semester, they thought that the dollar was still backed by gold. So these are people who are educating, these are people who are getting MBAs, and they believe that the dollar is backed by gold. At an R1 major research university. So that's a little anecdote, and I agree with you on a lot of stuff. So I don't know, I'm going to bring it back down to some practical issues on what we're doing with numismatics and coins. But the same idea, when we talked about with gold, is using, basically taking old fiat and using it to ground gold-backed and silver-backed coins. And the other issue, without going into a lot of details that are not the same, energy that we're used to in the talk, but as just the one issue that you talked about that we think about a lot is how do you store the real world assets? What do you do with it? Where do you put it? And then, luckily, on my side, and what I bring to Daniel with Numo, is that in numismatics, old coins, there's a real pain point in academia as a historian and me working in Jewish history, is the fear of things being lost, and also that there's no access to a lot of material, which means that museums and archives, which are all very well insured and publicly verifiable, are places where you can put all of your coins and other historical real-world assets. So we can take the coins, we can put them in the Met, we can put them in Numismatic Society in New York City, we can put them in the university, where anyone can publicly come and verify them at any time, lift them, hold them, play with them, not steal them, I hope, but they will be fully insured by the institution. So that's a way we get around it with numismatics. And it also makes sure that you can't hide any history. You can't hide any artifacts. So it's helping, I hope, democratically, as the lowercase word, use of the word, but also in helping, well, people make money with their money, literally. Like they've got old money sitting around and they can turn it into real money, Bitcoin.
Cool. So I guess with Scott, one thing I want to hear from you is, I know you've been, the thesis of BitBasil is really fostering the Web3 art scene here in Miami. So we'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on, the intersection between the digital aspect of these assets and then also the physical. Because I know I went to your gallery yesterday. There's a lot of cool in-person pieces. As you know, during Art Basel, they sold a bunch of really, really cool, huge silver freaking pieces that was, sold for millions and millions and millions of dollars. So just kind of love to hear your perspective. Where you think kind of things are going with art?
Definitely Bitcoin and real world assets. I mean, we were the blockchain center, but we were the Bitcoin center, origin. And then in 2020, we became BitBasel, 2021 BitBasel. So it was going from Bitcoin to NFTs. They're kind of two different parts of the brain of this industry. And I say that because me and I think Nick might have bonded early on because we're Bitcoin maxis is sometimes what they call it. But at the same time, in 2020, 2021, it proved that Bitcoin wasn't the place where users were adopting blockchain technologies. It was through NFTs on Ethereum. Now it's meme coins on Solana. But due to my stubbornness, I would say I really believed in the thesis that, especially art, fine art, when you're putting fine art onto the blockchain, you're going to want that to be on the most decentralized ledger and something that in history is not going to be lost, right? There's thousands of blockchains. Hundreds of them have already failed. Imagine putting something really of value onto that and poof, it's gone. So over the years, we've been building protocols on like the Stacks blockchain, which is one of the first ones to kind of tie a layer 2 to Bitcoin as a smart contract platform. Because Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts, it does, but very limited in the sense that you can't issue tokens on Bitcoin. There's two types of tokens, fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens. Bitcoin's a fungible token, but you can't issue other fungible tokens on top of Bitcoin. You can't issue an NFT on top of Bitcoin because it doesn't have the smart contract expressiveness that Ethereum or other Turing-complete blockchains have. So we were building out Stacks, but it was still kind of arcane. But then in, 2023 in January, there was a paper published called Ordinals. And it was really nifty and simple way that brought tokens to Bitcoin. Ultimately, Bitcoin runs on the UTXO model. Every block, new Bitcoin are created. In Bitcoin, there are 100 million of what we call Satoshi units. And what Ordinal's theory does is that it looks at each Satoshi from the origin block, that's Satoshi number 1, and it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to where we're at now, to 21 million times 100 million. There's 21 quadrillion Satoshis, and by looking at each one, you can identify, it creates a unique identifier for each Satoshi. So now with that unique identifier, you can create unique assets onto the Bitcoin blockchain if you're reading the Ordinals protocol. And I was very happy about this, not having to work with this Stacks blockchain, which was a different story, because when you deal with foundations and blockchains, you deal with the business side of them too, and the whole community. But now we can just do it on Bitcoin, which has no owners. So we believe in the thesis of putting these fine art. We sent art to the moon. It was amazing. So art that's, oh man, I mean, that's another story. But in 2023, NASA, came out with its first ever commercial payload service missions. If you guys don't know, Florida is the space capital of the country. Sorry, Texas. It's Florida. It's been that way since the 50s. But for the first time ever, NASA and the US government did a public-private partnership. So now this SpaceX rocket with all these payloads on it could be branded. And Columbia Jacket, they put their huge brand on the outside of this lunar lander that was destined to be the first ever landing on the moon since 1972. And all other private companies can come on board. So we were lucky enough to be part of a project called the Lunar Prize Museum. It was a metal disc made out of nickel, because nickel doesn't oxidize in orbit or space, and onto this disc using something called nanofish technology. My co-founder Scarlett had to explain this to me many, many times, but microscopically you can etch in different documents or archives or even images. So 222 artists were selected to be part of this mission, and we were lucky enough to be the exclusive marketing partner and also the co-curator of those 222 artists. And February 22nd, which is 222, after years of this being delayed, it launched from Cape Canaveral and then on the moon. So now there's a disc on a lander that's just sitting there dead, and on that disc, very microscopically, are 222 artists' artwork. And our job is to tokenize these. Are you gonna tokenize them on Dash or, I think they were sponsors today, the Wax blockchain? Or are you gonna take these down to Bitcoin and preserve them forever? Because this is, just like nickel, it's gonna be less than 1 billion years. So I think there's a story to be told, especially with fine art, and Newton, your project's very interesting, and I'm hearing it, that Bitcoin is this storage layer that's gonna persist throughout humanity, and tying that story, I think, kind of brings in the story of Bitcoin and the money and the foreverness, but also allowing people to understand it from an artistic perspective. And now there's runes, which allow you to use ordinals to create fungible tokens on Bitcoin. So now there's this resurgence of development on Bitcoin over the last year and a half, which is very exciting, and I think allows for real world assets to be tied to Bitcoin, which before ordinals really wasn't a possibility. So that's our thesis, and
Can I ask a question on that?
yeah.
Sorry, I assumed that we all knew ordinals and runes, so thanks for explaining that. People didn't know what I was talking about with creating a gold-backed rune. But yes, you have a rune token that's now backed by gold with fiat. But I wanted that with old fiat, as I call it. But I wanted to ask you a question though. All of those inscriptions that went to the moon, as far as I know, there isn't. And why is there no moon rare sats collection? Is there one?
There could be, right? So like rare sats are like, they talk about the pizza sats. So like the transaction that was used to buy the first pizza with Bitcoin, which is the first transaction ever, someone's made a bunch of money off of this by taking all those Satoshis and putting stupid figures on them and calling them pizza ninjas. We could, the time where the lander landed on the moon on February 22nd, we can go back into our Bitcoin archive and try and find those sats. We're gonna have to talk to the miners, sats hunting, and we're gonna find those miners. Let's do it. All right, I'm glad I met you tonight. We're gonna find those sats, and then those would be the first landing on the moon sats at that very time, and then we'll put the artwork on there. And I think someone will be, want to collect that as a collector. Collectors are very odd. I've been in the art world now for 4 years, so I didn't come from that, but I think someone would be interested in that.
Yeah, we could do it on campus with the students.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Deal.
On the panel. On the panel. We love it. Cool. So why don't we open up for questions to the audience? If you have a question?
I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me pass it.
I can talk loud enough that they can hear me.
Let's hear it. Let's go.
So, real world assets is a really interesting thing because I loved your museum example because what it provides is continuous monitoring. And that opportunity of continuous monitoring, conceptually you could say, let's ask the participants in the museum, could they execute a transaction that they said they still saw this coin at a museum? In cybersecurity, we learned how to do that. It's today called continuous monitoring or zero trust architecture. You should steal from the concepts of zero trust architecture so that we can continuously monitor the real world asset that's represented by a token because we've finally given the real world asset represented by a token an identity. And so I'd just like to understand a little bit as you think about this both from a technology perspective, from a how we change the world about how we monitor assets. Gold's a fascinating place where, how do you know the gold is really gold? You assay it freaking again, right? Again and again. I mean, most gold has been melted down hundreds of times just to determine it's actually gold. And so that continuous monitoring is interesting. I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts around that.
Yeah, can I answer that? So actually, it's a good question. How do you actually know the gold is gold? So when you're dealing with numismatics, they've all been verified because they've all gone through auction sales. So they've been verified by CNG and other well-known auctions to know exactly how much gold. But not only that, but you can trace historically through the records and other historians' material to know not only if it's real gold, but where the gold came from, what river it came from, when it was actually mined, what generally what year. So you can actually see, wow, I got gold that was mined in the year 300 in northern Spain. It was used by this groups of people and so on and so on.
Yes.
So you know how much
We
gold
used a
was there.
very important piece of trust infrastructure to record that.
It's true.
Called books. And books were copied. So books were copied. And so if my book and your book disagreed, sometimes we can go find his book and determine through consensus that the information was authentic or true and researched. The problem is, nowadays, we're not going to write this shit down in books. We're going to record it on X, which we forgot to sign, so we don't actually know if the data recorded on X is real or who it came from. We have no origin documents for data. So it's a challenging thing as we transition to digital, because we believe in a digital future. We don't operate with digital infrastructure today. None of you can send me a message that I know came from you. Maybe, but maybe not. Like I did an ICO, so my ICO token can send Nick a message to his wallet that he can look up and know that that came from my ICO token. So I have the beginnings of an identity. Trump just launched one with his meme coins. He now has an identity. But there are lots of us in this world that don't operate with any ability to send Nick a message that he can validate came from the person sending it. It's just an email.
What you can do though with that is, is the gold, the actual, the scientific process of measuring the gold and determining the consistency of the gold and the purity of the gold is not just in books. It's done in laboratories with these material, and that. So what you can do in that is you can put those experiments on
chain.
You can put them on chain, you can put them on Doge or Bitcoin, you can put them on Doge to save space on Bitcoin and connect them within the chain and so on. But then you can also connect augmented reality through recursive art, and so people can actually watch through they can buy an NFT or ordinal and they can actually verify and watch the lab process and then connect through the science. They can learn the scientific method and all on chain. So you can do it, you can verify that all on chain, and so you wouldn't have to just rely on it.
But I can also put a gold brick on that table, put a camera on top of it, build integrity into the camera, and have the camera take a picture of the gold every 1 second, properly digitally signed, and record that on chain, and then I can say, it might not be a good transaction use, but my gold is still there. And it's been continuously there, and it hasn't moved or changed. And so this is the concept that cybersecurity would introduce of, let's just do real-time monitoring of the gold. So now my real-world asset in my Wyoming corporation says, in my corporate statements, I'm going to monitor this gold bar on the table with my camera. This is what my corporate statements say. So now when you buy that fractional gold share, what you're actually buying is not only the gold, but the process to continuously monitor that the gold is there. That aspect of the corporation is incredibly useful in the tokenization via corporate structure. You can do it with other structures as well.
I'll let others. But the museum kind of gets over that because you can go.
The museum is brilliant.
You can go to the museum. You can go to the archive. You can, but also it gives a reason for people to take a lot of coins that are just sitting in attics and other places. And bring
So
them
we
into
should
circulation.
make Fort Knox a tourist trap. Because
But
the
Fort Knox is
action
empty, no?
Well, but the actual action of the tourists flowing through Fort Knox, especially if it were open 24/7, would make it extremely difficult to alter the state of Fort Knox without detection. And so it's a fascinating question to think about. How do we build this intersection between true real-world assets and the monitoring of the infrastructure and a token?
We got any questions, please?
Sorry.
So I have a question.
So Jordan, there
Yes,
is
sure, Jordan.
presently a system that, I guess is what you're saying, and it's just warehouses that store the gold, you have warehouse receipts, the gold is audited, and it works. And I was in the gold business for years, and that's what we do. I think tokenized warehouse receipts would be the perfect money.
Jordan, why don't you introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. What traffic to get here. Jordan Gitterman. I am the founder of Item Bank. Our main thrust is to tokenize businesses' inventories, and we are also creating AI agents that will allow trades to be made. Initially, I think that we're going to be using Web3 as a form of marketing, at least for inventories, because there's no possible way to put your inventory onto the blockchain right now, and somebody to start buying the ownership of that token is very little market for that. But there is becoming a market now for using the blockchain now to discover these different items. So it becomes a form of marketing, which we believe will evolve into actually the ownership of a particular item on a blockchain being traded with the help of AI agents. And that's what we work on in a real nutshell.
So I actually had another question for Michael here. So, we talking about history, etc. I'm curious. So I would love to know, what does Bitcoin change in your opinion about history? As a history professor, tell us a little bit about what's the real paradigm shift in this field?
Well, no one wants to hear a long academic talk, so even in academia. But so just super quick, because I work in Jewish history, religious studies, Jewish studies, I see mathematics, religion, Bitcoin, all with the same fundamental principle, the same purpose, the same aim, and that aim is very simple. It's to connect the abstract to the real, and then you assign meaning and value both to that process and to the products of that process, and that's all they do. And history is just a scientific method that produces data. That's all. It's a data producing machine. And I don't think that people in business really understand history and historical method as that data producing machine. So yeah, connecting the abstract to the real and the rest of it is what I think brings them all together, and how Bitcoin connects to all of that.
Perfect. Cool. So, do we have any other questions from the audience? Sure. Probably if you want to stand up and speak, or
It's actually
I'm gonna ask one for Jordan. I don't think. Thanks he came the furthest other than Nick and for locally at least. Thanks for finding the traffic. So, you did a pretty interesting NFT fashion show, and I felt like it's similar to what Scott and Scott both do. It's a cool concept, and we'll fill in the blanks later. And it was great that you do that. You can innovate in chaos. So now, a year and a half after your NFT fashion show, I asked you at the time, yeah, it's a great fashion show, but what's the NFT aspect? And now, a year and a half later, what's your answer? You had 18 months to think about this now.
Well, what is the answer? We have, who's here to answer it for me. In that particular fashion show, which I honestly have little interest, other than the glamorous aspect of it, of putting together an NFT fashion show. But a colleague of mine, his name is evading me, but created a whole line of fashion. And the NFTs are on there, the designs are on there. You can buy the designs, trade the designs, buy the actual product itself. Being that I'm focused on inventories, that aspect of it does interest me. And his name is Nick. It's my phone. I'll look it up for you guys. And no, it's just the beginning. I mean, not that much has changed since then. But I think that the path is clear. That people are starting to see and understand. Even for example, what I'm discussing right now, tokenized inventories. I mentioned earlier, I thought that tokenized warehouse receipts or gold warehouse receipts, that's gold ownership, was the perfect money. Because now I can transfer my gold to somebody in Singapore right now. And when I first started discussing that, I was rebuffed by the whole community because ounce of gold warehouse receivers for 1 ounce of gold is worth $2,000, let's say, going to go up to $10 million now. Ethereum and Bitcoin and all of these other tokens and coins have that speculative capital behind it, bringing them up. And so that has changed, and people are starting to realize the utility of a ledger now for inventories and for other things. It hasn't changed that much since then, I have to tell you, Brad. But the vision is...
So I'll ask you another 18 months,
Yeah.
you know.
The vision, but no, people are understanding it now, where they didn't even understand it even 18 months ago. So that's a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. A lot of beautiful ladies and great mingling. The vision now is I think, here. I can talk to people now and I'm not being rebuffed. And as the people on that panel were discussing various topics, including using NFTs in the fashion world for all different things, most people were rolling their eyes and yawning at it. And they were here today and said, okay, I see that, I understand it.
What's the value of the NFT?
Well,
In the dress, you're saying you have a dress?
well, there are many,
There's a NFT, there's a hash on the blockchain
yeah,
that somehow points to the dress.
there are many different,
I'm wondering, what does it do?
there were many different NFTs. It wasn't just one. There were different designers, for example, that were putting their designs on as NFTs and would sell you their design. That was one example.
Drawing the
Yeah,
pattern.
yeah, the whole pattern, the design, the fabric, all of that stuff.
So like Nick, so just to give you guys, so you see I have a Bitcoin here. So this fashion show, like some of the models had logos saying this dress is an NFT. So I think even that's kind of cool. Like I would buy that for someone.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's give him the.
That's right. I agree. First of all, Evelio Medina, president of the Miami Brickell Chamber of Commerce. I remember when you guys did this many years ago, so thank you for setting up the framework for what happened after the pandemic and all that nonsense. Referencing real world, real estate and tokenization, what do you guys, you mentioned the Wyoming, the $100 and all that. Walk me through, so anywhere, I have a building here, whatever, how can we tokenize that? How do we finance that? I kind of give me that little roadmap if you can, a little bit of that. With the new administration, forget about the past.
Yeah, fuck the past. The past is a grotesque animal.
That's right. The past is not real, it's only an abstraction.
So, what? The past is not real. It's not real. So you have a deed that's recorded at the county center, and you put your name on it, and it's at the county center. So you're an entity. So you go get a Wyoming entity, and put the Wyoming entity on the deed, transfer it to the Wyoming entity, and record that at the county center. The Wyoming entity doesn't have shares. The corporation doesn't have shares, paper shares. It has a mint of tokens on the Ethereum blockchain or whatever you write on there, and that becomes the shares. I say, oh, I made 100 shares, I made 100 million shares, 100 million tokens. Who the bearer of these tokens own the percentage ownership of this corporation, and the corporation owns the property. You got that, right? It's easy, huh?
LLC, boom, boom, boom.
And LLC too. And so, yeah, you can probably tokenize the loans also, and get people to, you can get people to put money in a smart contract, and then the smart contract can lend to them, give them some big business idea. You got white paper AI, whitepaper.ai ready with your AI token minting. Where are you, Adam?
Yeah.
All right. Pump out the coin. He has a bot that makes a coin every 3 seconds. So,
Oh, God.
so you can.
Thanks, Nick.
Oh, I forgot. You're supposed to be anonymous.
Shit.
Anymore.
Well, look, how about me? I opened a fucking Bitcoin exchange right into the stock market 100 feet away. And I go to sleep. We launch it, everything's great. No one knows it's me. I go to sleep, and then my phone wakes. I go to fall asleep on a couch, and then my phone wakes me up. There's 1,000 people saying, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "What does that mean?" Hamdan sends a press release with my name all over it. And I'm the fucking guy. I'm like, "You crazy?" He sent a press release. I was fucked up. Anyway. So yeah, you can tokenize loans. You can put loans in a smart contract. They can lend, and you gotta have a management company that's gonna get paid. That's gonna do the physical work, of course. Or you can just file it electronically and robotically and get fucked like Chase. I screwed Chase out of $1.1 million one time and feel happy about that. I'll rob banks any day. Member banks of the Federal Reserve, not small banks. Because they rob us every day. So they had this thing where this one guy said, "Oh, I electronically file mortgage papers." You have the gals at the county center, and they do all the research, blah blah blah, and then you get the signed deed, and they go take the signed deed to the county clerk, and they stamp it. Well, this guy would fax all that shit around, and got all these big banks to allow him to record those deeds, and from the dirt right up to Lehman. So what happened was, it wasn't legal. So anyone who had one of those, probably a few of you might have, but you didn't know the trick. They were illegal documents. And then they sold that paper, and then they have paper without a real stamp, without a real signature, and then they can't prove that you borrowed the money. So they couldn't foreclose on you, they couldn't do shit to you. So I screwed out 1.1. Thank you very much. And they deserve it. So, but they don't deserve it. So you lend out of a smart contract, record the loan, and you can have crowdfunding of real estate. Why not? So easy. And that's going to start happening. Did you do it? You started yet? Let me see your left hand. At the same time, both at the same time.
I have a question. Is Florida going to recognize series LLCs?
Say again?
Is Florida have any plans to recognize series LLCs like in Wyoming?
You're gonna ask this guy,
Yeah.
the president of the Chamber of Commerce. What's up?
I think she had an answer.
I believe you can have a Florida entity as a foreign.
They don't recognize series, I don't believe. Series LLCs, so.
That I don't know about.
So if you're talking about registering a foreign corporation
New York
from another state as a foreign.
LLC is a Wyoming.
Series, different thing, but like it's what Wyoming does. Is they have sub papers, so a LLC can spawn many LLCs underneath it. But I believe last I looked was that Florida wouldn't recognize them as companies when you try to register foreign entities. So it's a big deal
Oh,
because
you're talking about
I'm saying well, you don't want to do that anyway, because people that invest want the simplest route to the deed, right?
yeah, but they have
This way they can audit it. You can go on the website, see the contract address, see the name of the company, which I recommend you put the contract address as the name of the company. Why not? Right? So that's the name of the company, it's the contract address, and then that contract address goes on. Then you don't have to. I don't think you have to register a foreign company to own property here. You don't have to have it, right? You can have a New York company's own property here. So you take the Wyoming Corp, maybe make the name, the contract address without holding the tokens, and the minting contract, and you put it right here. Then you record it over here. I mean, the more steps, if you have one under another, people aren't gonna buy it. If I see that deed, and I look on Property Shark, and I see the deed to this thing. I look at it from fucking Google Earth, Property Shark, and the Wyoming Secretary of State website, and I see the contract address there, and that's what's over there. I'm good. I believe that I own one of the shares of the building.
I don't know the answer, but if you guys don't know, Florida is, if that is something that's important, it'll probably get passed, in Florida. Florida has really been leading the way in terms of blockchain legislation. A lot of stuff we do is federally, regulated, but as an example, especially through the Florida Blockchain Business Association, which Blockchain Center was members of, BitBoss was members of, I'm a minority representative there. They've done 7 years of Blockchain Day at the Capitol, and they were responsible for influencing DeSantis' decision to be the first state to ban a central bank digital currency if it were ever to be issued, which was repeated in many other states and made its way up to Trump's campaign. So Florida wants to be the leader, it always has, it still can be. Steal all the businesses from California and New York. Florida's always been open to cryptocurrency as much as it could be. And there's a lot of history here. We're at the Blockchain North American Bitcoin Conference in 2014, which is now WAGMI. This is where Ethereum was announced. The first ever Bitcoin transaction for pizza happened in Jacksonville, Florida. We helped set up the blockchain lab at the University of Florida. It was funded $2.5 million in 2021 by Algorand. And so they want it down here. There's no one against it. It always has been. And Florida's definitely a safe and accepting and accelerant place for crypto adoption.
All right, well, looks like we have one last question. You want to come up?
What's the plan for the strategic Bitcoin reserve with the new administration?
We'll find out. I mean, it wasn't in the banning CBDC bill. I mean, that was more important to me than the crypto bill. Not really, but when I saw that, I knew that we got to protect the Donald because he got big balling balls down there. Because last time someone was fucking those guys, caught a bullet to the head. Oh, he caught it to the ear. Oh, wait a second here. Oh. Even the president of Togo in 63, 6 months, it was 6 months apart, his murder, he threw out CEPA, Central Bank, the currency of Africa. He threw them out. He caught a bullet to the head too. 6 months between him and JFK, catching a bullet to the head, fucking with the central bank. And the Donald missed his head. He turned his head. It was like that, right? Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy shit. Like, is everyone an idiot out there? I mean, my whole life I'm walking around. I'm just.
I think Peter, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Okay, this is our last question, all right, guys? It's been over an hour. Really appreciate your patience.
There you go.
Come on.
Scott, read your phone.
Thank you all, gentlemen. I just have one last question on behalf of all of Europe. Are you guys going to come over and help liberate us? Or does the party end here in America?
We're coming.
Mega.
And then they're going to call it an invasion. And, this guy is like a Hitler invading places and all this shit. Like Donald's invading England. No, he's getting invited. Whatever. I mean,
We'll come save Europe if you get rid of the metric system.
Mega.
Let me get a question out of someone.
Who got a question? Who's the most quietest person here that never asks a question? That guy right there. Sorry, come on. What's the question? Yeah. You were gonna ask something. What is it?
There you go. I had a thought that Trump, it'd be great,
crypto in the past, there were scams and people stole crypto, like the USI Tech, the Big Connect, and it scarred a lot of people. You know, so I think it'd be amazing if he said kind of like a restitution fund, and obviously they're not gonna make him whole, but
How much did you lose?
10 bitcoins.
How much?
10 bitcoins.
Buyer beware.
That's how I got into it. I'm not getting back to you. I didn't know. But they caught the guy, the USI Tech guy, and then he escaped. Or he escaped from, I think Interpol caught him. And then the FBI, somehow he got loose. But, those things, if they go after them, they get them, and they get the private keys back, which maybe they could, then just kind of a thing to, maybe
It's only like $1.1 million.
I don't think Trump creates safety nets, and Bitcoin is not a safety net.
You gotta be a grown up.
Well, not me.
I mean, if you want to be pampered by the state,
Not for me, there's people that lost fortunes.
we can wrap you up in some building. Yes.
I want to say something, I'm more in this field. I just want to say, I want to say something. We are all entrepreneurs in this field, and I think Satoshi Nakamoto gave us an outstanding example of how can we be responsible for ourselves. We don't need the banks to transact. This is this example of trying to be responsible for our assets. And I just want to share with you that we try to break the other part of this example that you set up. That you, with our, I think, because it's a community discussion, I think that Satoshi Nakamoto gave us an example how with people, with minors, there is safety in keeping the ledger. Each one of us, Bitcoin is open, but still Bitcoin is Bitcoin. So I think with the keys, we have to take the same way of looking how we're gonna take care of the keys, the same way he took care of how the computers are doing it together, the transactions, So we need another layer to protect our keys. There are I heard many different approaches, but I think it's our responsibility. Nobody, no Trump, no other. We are decentralized, guys. No centralized is going to protect us. This is wrong approach. So we need to keep our coins, we need to protect ourselves, and I think it's the future, the way we see it in our technology, seedless, phraseless technology with the MPC or the miners are us overcoming AI. Because if I am your friend, you will know who I am, and that's the approach would be. And I saw other approaches. This is our approach. We need to keep Bitcoin decentralized, and that's the whole revolution. For me, I am in this revolution because I want to decentralize my assets. It's mine. I worked for it. This is where it gives me my freedom. I'm an Israeli. The only thing I need to think of how I'm going to run. Okay? I can't take my gold. I can't take my diamonds. I can't take anything. But the one thing that can save me to move from a country to the country is my Bitcoin. And I'm here for the freedom and not for any custody. That's it. So let's not look for any custody in the government. We don't want to give them because Trump is going to be 4 years there and the next one will grab our money. That's it.
So we have a question here from Scarlett.
Hi everybody. This times for everybody. One, because I really feel it's the dawn of the AI. Trump really officially announced that AI intelligence and crypto is going to be a rapid forefront of innovation here in the United States. And not only that, he announced it, Stargate. For those who don't know, that's an consideration for AI. We just definitely enter an age where we have two forms of technology conversions of decentralized AI that's going to be happening here. This battle is all about real world assets. And I'm kind of in the conversions of all three in terms of the technology that's happening. And we're going to see a rapid exponential growth of these emerging technologies. So, interesting enough, Bitcoin in itself is the most decentralized of these emerging technologies to create the decentralized AI. Since we are exponential growth, we want to own identity, property, assets, and so forth. And you're going to hear this a lot in the digital space, digital real asset. That's quoted from Trump in terms of this conversion point. So it's going to be a very interesting time for those who are not in the space, because be mindful, this ecosystem understands what does it mean AI, what does it mean crypto. Outside, what we call normies, have no idea what they're about to face. So really it's up to us and to kind of explain in a very